Hello there, Colin Hall, Biz Plans UK on a windy Sunday morning. I want to share with you a characteristic of US politics, which is fairly peculiar to the US, and why you need to pay attention to it, because it has medium and long-term impacts to what happens over here. And I'm talking about the use of executive orders. If you don't know what these are, they're basically the ability of the US president to, with a single swipe of his pen, or her pen, enact a law that requires no confirmation or work with Congress. It simply is the president's will. To give you an equivalent example in the UK, it would be like Keir Starmer suddenly deciding that he wanted to give all 12-year-olds the vote, and signing a piece of paper and suddenly, bang, that's law. Now, obviously, these executive orders impart huge power to the president, and they can easily be abused to the point where they can become a dictator. So it's important to understand they only affect federal jurisdiction, nothing to do with the states. They can be challenged by US courts if they're unconstitutional or if they run contrary to existing laws. And also they can be overturned by Congress. But that said, they have been used extensively by all presidents in living memory, and indeed Trump in his first term used them a lot, although I would say not excessively by historical standards. So why do presidents use them? Well, obviously things get done quickly. If you need something done, sign an order and it's done. Secondly, if it's something that is not contentious, which everyone agrees with, you can get it done without having to go through the rigmarole and the cost and the time of putting it through Congress. If getting it through Congress is possible, but only with lots of negotiations, and perhaps spending of political capital, and allowing the usual US pork barrel politics to come to play. You want to avoid that, you would use them. And you'd also use them if you know full well that you'd never get it through Congress, they wouldn't agree. And so you can bypass all that troublesome and just make it law. Obviously, when you do that, there's a good chance to get challenged, but at least you're on your way. So the thing that's important currently is the extent to which Trump has used them. So in his first 100 days, he issued them at a rate of almost 1.5 per day. It's over 140 in his first 100 days. To give you some sense of scale, the next highest for the first 100 days of office was Biden, who did 42. And remember, he came into power at the height of COVID. So a lot of those would have been trying to get things done quickly in regard to public health. So Trump has really gone hell for leather on the use of these executive orders. Now, why is that? Well, you need to understand the man himself. Number one, he does not like being told no. So if you go to Congress, there's a chance they'll say no, or they want to change it, or they question it, or they'll tell him it won't work, and he hates that. That's why he surrounded himself by people whose only real criteria to be in his team are 1, loyalty, and 2, incompetence. That way there's no chance they'll tell him that he's wrong, down the wrong track, or that there's a better way of doing it. The only exception to working with Congress is to do with taxes, because that's an area where the president, with the executive order, can't enact change, so he has to work with Congress. At the moment there's a bill going through which has got a suitable Trumpian name, with a big beautiful bill, and it's been described by one economist as the biggest movement of funds of capital from the poor to the rich in history, as well as a massive movement of capital from future generations to current generations. So whether or not you think that's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do, he can't do this without Congress. And also he's likely to lose control of Congress in terms of the Republican majority at the midterm elections in about 18 months. So if he wants to do it, he's got to do it now. But he's got a history of having the least amount of engagement with Congress, and that's likely to be much more so this presidency than the first one. So what does that mean for us in the UK? Well, the thing about executive orders is they can be undone just as quickly as they're created, unlike a bill through Congress. And because he's operating almost entirely by executive order, it means everything that he's doing can be undone just as quickly. So if you're looking at medium to long-term planning, and any of those things that he's done, any orders he's issued, any laws he's created, then you have to take into account that they could just as easily be gone in 3.5 years. On that note, bye-bye.